Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment on The Weekend Show. My name is Andy Madaki. On the 28th of September, National Assembly and presidential election campaigns will begin. How ready are the candidates? How ready are the parties? It's rather interesting that months after the conclusion of the primaries, we've seen a bit of crisis within some parties. Last week, we had a speaker from the Labour Party on the show, and today we'll be discussing PDP's readiness in the 2023 elections and the internal wranglings within the party. And joining me, I have returned guest Oseaneni. Welcome.
Glad to be here again.
Also having them on our Onoja. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And Anthony Ehelbo.
It's nice to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
I'll start with you, Ose. Do you think the People's Democratic Party is ready for the 2023 elections?
I think the party has been ready since 2019. We came with a candidate and a manifesto to get Nigeria working again. Unfortunately, as most Nigerians think, the elections in 2019 really didn't reflect the will of the people. Luckily, we've had an Electoral Act amendment. We still have a candidate who is more prepared this time around. And I think Nigeria is worse off today than it was in 2015. Our candidates' plans are still workable and will still lift us out of the doldrums the APC have sunk us into. So are we ready to win? Of course we are ready to win. Do we have plans that will work? Of course we do. Do we have a ruling party or a government that is willing to this time allow the will of the people take the day? That's yet to see.
Onoja, I hate to call it party crisis or internal crisis, but that's what it looks like it is. Over time, younger people, and I say it because the three of you here have been some of the loudest voices in support of the People's Democratic Party in the last 7 years. And so we've been hearing about party supremacy a lot. Do you think any one individual is bigger than the party? Because that's what it looks like right now with the internal crisis within the People's Democratic Party.
No. Very quickly, I think that, and I told says lying, but with a small variation. I think that, to answer your question directly, no. No one individual can be bigger than a political party. And it's not just being bigger than the People's Democratic Party, it's any political party across the world. No one individual should be bigger than that political party. I think that people need to, there's the occasion where having engaged in a fierce political contest that people, and I use the word advisedly because it's somewhat abused, recognize party supremacy and then align personal interests behind the overall interest and objective of the political party. No matter how laudable the plans, programs, and policy propositions of a political party are, you cannot deliver on them to the Nigerian people unless you win an election, right? And you have to get to that place where we realize that as much as their individual and personal ambitions, having one person having won the primary, won a contest of ideas, which is what primaries essentially are, a contest of ideas. Once one person has won that, there's the need to align behind that person and form a cohesive party machinery that then helps you, present, engage with the public, present your ideas to the public, convince the public to come out to vote for you, protect those votes all the way to the declaration of a result, and then the formation of government to deliver on those on those promises. Now, the place where I have a very slight difference with Ose is really slight. While the PDP has been ready to rule, to provide, cohesive, proper government to the Nigerian people for years, at least since 2019, the political machinery that delivers on an election is not properly aligned completely yet. There's a lot of alignment that is going on, and there's a lot of competition of interest to ensure that the cohesion of that machinery is full, it's foolproof, it's effective, it's at 100%. That hasn't happened as quickly as we had hoped it will happen after the after the primaries earlier on in the year, there's a little sense of disappointment on the part of, us, the younger members of the political party, because we're gearing to go, we're desirous of engaging on what the fundamental issues are. And it's very easy to identify what these fundamental issues are. The issues of rampant, on previously unseen levels of corruption, the issues of unprecedented amounts of oil theft and loss of revenue. Nigerians have never been this poor. Nigeria has never been this poor. We've got record insecurity, record unemployment, and all those negative indices that the APC has ensured that Nigerians have had to suffer from for the last 7 years. We would like to focus on those issues. And so there's the hope that the higher-ups, the leaders of the party, the more senior stakeholders in the party will quickly finish this phase of alignment so that we can go to the more substantive action of engaging with the Nigerian people.
Sure. Anthony, in the recently, let's call it suspended continuous voters registration, 12 million new voters were added to the ranks. About 71% of them were between the ages of 18 to 34. And so in 2015, some of us were still youth, so we are no longer within that cadre. We are now joining the older generation. However, in 2019, when former Vice President Atiku got the ticket, his campaign committee and working group had about 20 former governors and ministers. I haven't seen any room given for young people within the party who are going to be the majority of the voters. Do you think there's room for the majority of the voting population and the young people within the PDP as the structure exists today?
It's interesting. You started off on the new registration of voters. Just before we came in, someone brought a particular section of the Electoral Act to my attention, Section 10.4 and Section 28, as it relates to the general notice of election, which states that INEC, at the time it gives the notice of general election or any election, the voters register at the time that notice was given is the voter register that will be used for that election. So it's an open argument. So we're still even going to find out if these new voters should be allowed by law to vote, since the notice of the general election was given in February, which is a 1-year time limit. And these are new innovations into our laws. Be that as it may, the presidential candidate, let's leave PDP, because if you go to PDP, the PDP youth leader is just 26 now. He was 25 when he was elected as youth leader. So in terms of representation, they've gone to the very basic in giving a truly young man the opportunity to lead PDP young people at the national executive level. Whether this has transcended across board, I still see that reforms are not a one-day affair, not a one-year affair. But when you look at the trajectory of the presidential candidates, since he became presidential candidate, he has made, I think, 7 appointments. So 5 of these appointments have gone to young people. So he's made his essays on media, essay on strategy, Abdul Rashid, Etta, Uso, and Demola Olariwaju, all young contemporaries like us, were made his special assistants. So that tells you, going into government, the thinking of the presidential candidate of the party, who is incidentally, at the last neck, jokingly, the BOT chairman, new BOT chairman, referred to as the leader of the party today. So if someone who's going to provide a sense of direction for the party is already leading by engaging young people to become the critical core of his thinking process as a leader, it then shows you or predicts to you the assumptions that in government you will have a lot of young people featuring. It's a known fact that while he was vice president, he picked a few talented young people and put them in critical management sectors. And that's what you saw translate to some of the policies driven by him at the time as vice president, who was in charge of the economy. Open up the space. I tell you what, between the 1999 return to democracy and perhaps 2015. Nigeria in its history, since the amalgamation in 1914, never had the sort of growth we saw of the middle class. We are that generation. So I can tell you, as of 2003 to 2007, which was the next tenure they had, the second tenure where he was vice president, there was a serious expansion of the middle class. And for anybody who would want the progress of Nigeria, those are the indices that we need to watch. The SME growths, the small, medium enterprises that are driven by young people. I can comfortably tell you that with the dwindling resources we are getting from oil, we need to look at our tech. We need to look at our angel investors, the VCs. That's where the new market is. That's where the new economy is. And it's a leapfrog method. You don't have to work so hard, but you get the resources you need for urgent development. And if you have a party, don't forget that PDP is the only party right now that has done an online registration which caters to a certain demographic of young people. And that was intentional, to engage young people across board. So in your intro, you alluded to the fact that we are consistent, or we have been consistent faces for the PDP. But I tell you what, there's a new generation of young PDP people coming. And they believe that the time for them is now. And I think they are connecting with our presidential candidates. I honestly believe that they are connecting with them, because you have a lot of them seeing what he has done for a generation before them, which is our generation. Because I remember in 2007, the biggest jobs were going to people who were working with Econet, Airtel, MTN, and Glo. And they had subsets of this much larger economy that they had built. So for us as a political party, and for the future of Nigeria that we envisage, considering all the factors my brother here has alluded to, that has become the known fate of Nigeria, and to pivot away from this, we would need to look at an economy that is more productive. I tell you what, when you do the combination of the tech guys we have in Nigeria, plus the entertainment, you see a very viable economy. And I think that's where the future needs to be. Yes, we need to feed our people. We need to look at agriculture. There are agro-techs as well. There are techpreneurs that are looking at the value chain for agriculture. And for us in the PDP, we understand these dynamics. If you look through our policies, if you look at what our presidential candidate has been speaking about, it shows that he's critically engaging young people. And they're telling him, this future belongs to us. Can we determine the roadmap?
Okay, let me bring Ose back in. I hear Anthony, who is very persuasive, and I've learned some things from you. However, we must talk about tokenism.
Tokenism.
We have to. Between 1999 to 2007, I think that was one of the times, in recent times, we had the youngest people at top positions. Now, this is not about APC, PDP, but the APC, I remember it was alleged that there was a meeting with the APC governors and their presidential ticket. And there was a list of positions where they had asked for to go to certain regions. And it included board positions, parastatals, and ministries. Young people don't want to be special advisors anymore, PAs. Do you think that there's room for young people, back to the same question, to have positions of leadership? Because he's talking about tech sector. These are young, frustrated Nigerians who had no other option, but they chose to be innovative. Do you think there's a role for young people to have leadership position if the PDP wins the next election, based on what we see right now? So
I sort of will push back at what you said. I think young people should be involved in every sector of the Nigerian economy, the Nigerian state, every sector. You know, so you speak about, you know, driving economic growth. I think that should be youth-led, whether it's in tech, whether it's in manufacturing, whether it's in agriculture. I think the engine of that growth has to be youth-led. And the candidate is speaking to that. So when he speaks to reforming the educational sector, for instance, or putting particular emphasis on education and on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics as a focus for transforming just the face of our education so we can be more productive. He's speaking to that youth demographic that is going to drive the economy. Coming to government now, and I suspect that's where you were speaking about tokenism, when you talk about maybe young people are only good to be aides,
yes,
or social media aides. and then the older generation get the more influential positions. And it's good. I think that's why campaigns are good. I think that's why it's important to actually hear the candidates speak. Some candidates are camera shy, ours isn't. And he has said that he is going to, I saw the smile just now, he has said he is going to give 40% of government appointment, his government appointment, to young people. And if anyone is giving 40% of his government to young people, it's not tokenistic at all. And it won't be 40% going to AIDS. It will be his heads of ministries, parastatals, and agencies. And so if it's, I think it's important, like Tony alluded to realize that, you know, we cannot pull ourselves out of this situation without engaging young people. And it's not just that in 2022, 70% of young people have registered, and there's this renaissance almost that this is the first time young people are getting engaged in the process. In 2019, we actually had about 14 million registrants, so more than we had in 2022. And it was the same split. It has always been young people showing up to get registered. I think where there sort of has been a disconnect is when you come to the actual election day activities, young people don't show up for whatever reason. I think this election will be different. I think young people have shown an appetite to actually stay engaged with the process. And it's why our candidate is engaging with them directly. He's speaking to youth leaders in all sectors. He's speaking to youth leaders in tech, in agriculture, in manufacturing, and in government. He's engaging with civil society, who are sort of like at the vanguard of transforming the electoral process, which has, you know, so when you speak about tokenism again, it doesn't, I won't just speak about his elected government or the economy. Even in elective offices, we are seeing a lot of young people within the PDP contesting and winning party tickets. So I think what we'll see in 2023 under a PDP government is a totally revamped, totally transformed government, youth-led government. We can start speaking about youth-led economies or youth-led sectors. I think we'll see a youth-led PDP government in 2023.
Onoja, the biggest opposition to the PDP's presidential candidate at the moment seems to be the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike. Recently, had called the candidate a hypocrite, and there are several other comments with his live band, which has been more theatrical. What do you think the candidate and the party should do? Because we've heard the term unifier, to unify the party, and so I'll just go around you. Unifier, how are you unifying? Does your candidate need to get a live band?
Does our candidate need to get a live band? First and foremost, I think that what everybody at the party level needs to realize is that there's a wider objective, not just for the political party that is PDP, but for the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is that without fail, to ensure the continued survival and to ensure that we can firmly replace this government, this country, on the path to sustainable growth and development. Without fail, we must replace APC at the center next year, win the election, replace APC at the center, form a government, and then deliver on our promises to the Nigerian people. That is the fundamental, most primary objective. And everybody has to come back to that page.
Well, Onoja, what people, just to interject while you answer, what Nigerians worry about is this was the same thing the APC said in 2015. It was just about unseating the current government to get power. What's the assurance that if and when this happens, we'll actually see the work done?
No, there's a difference, and I'll clarify with the difference. So to come back to your question, it was a hotly contested primaries, perhaps one of the most hotly contested primary in the 2015, since Nigeria returned to democracy. It's one of the most hotly contested primaries that we've ever had. Now, it is expected that in the fallout of that, there will be emotions on both sides. There will be, these people at the end of the day, are human beings who are very passionate about their desire to contribute to the successful growth and development of our country and our political party. So that there has been some negative emotion is not surprising. What is where the disappointment has been is that it's been 13 weeks since the primaries. It has taken that long and we have not been able to resolve that. However, you would realize that in the last few weeks, the dispute resolution mechanism of the party has actually come strongly into play. And you would see that being the cohesive, being the party machinery, that the self-healing party machinery that it has always been, the party is healing. You would see that now people are realizing, the closer we've come to the official campaign period, even though I believe campaign started a long time ago, people are realizing that we have to make the sacrifices that are required. People are realizing that we have to sort ourselves out. People are realizing that the People's Democratic Party represents the final hope for the reclamation. I don't like the context of the word rescue, but to be able to reposition this country, the People's Democratic Party is the final hope. Now, to answer your question about this is what the APC said in 2015, it was not backed by any substance. The economic indicators were different. On the 1st of February 2015, 1st of February 2015, while speaking at the Chatham House in the United Kingdom, President Muhammadu Buhari acknowledged that in the 16 years before that year, there had been an average of 7% GDP growth. He acknowledged that. He goes on to misread and misinterpret that and misdirect people, but he acknowledged that. You cannot do that now. Let's give you an instance. I'll give you another instance. At the moment, the Nigerian military is stretched to the point where there are military operations in 36 states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Never before. There is no positive economic indicator anywhere. So the indices between what was 2015 and 2019, and 2023, very different. Then what is the difference? In 2015, you had the person who went on to become the worst president in the history of this country, President Muhammadu Buhari, say things like he would secure the economy.
Jerry, sorry, just for the record, we would like to state that
that is my
opinion of this show and the
I
African
own the
Independent
opinion.
Television. But please, yes, in 1 minute, so we could get
you heard him say things like he would secure the economy with the military. He will use the army, the navy, and the air force to secure the economy. You heard him make unrealistic promises about turning a price of petrol to this and improving the exchange rate and blah, blah, blah. And you heard all that without an answer to the question how. Our candidate is speaking very differently. He's telling you what he intends to do. He's telling you how he intends to do it. And he's telling you some of the difficult challenges, some of the sacrifices that we're going to have to make as a people to be able to achieve those things. Completely different approach to these two things.
Thank you very much. Anthony, how do you think your candidate and the party can unify the country at this point?
Unify the country. I mean, this is a man that it typifies him as a Nigerian. We have a candidate that is largely, or across the firmament, I'll give you the 4 top candidates, and without even mentioning their names, you would know where to place them when I give you a certain criteria that matches them. There's a candidate that seems to speak to the Southwest and sees himself, and in fact, his slogan for this campaign, which we have given to him, which he gave to himself, and I like the fact that he's Christian himself with a Miloka. We know what sector of the country, what region he's trying to speak to. We have another one that seems to speak to...
He's also speaking a lot to agriculture.
Well, I mean, agbado, cassava. Look, you have another one that seems to speak to another region, the southeastern region. But we have another one in the north that seems to speak to possibly part of Kano, and seems like a northern heretic leader. But in the PDP, you find a candidate that has been the vice president of Nigeria. The only person, I mean, all of them at one point or the other have been governors. All of them, the four I've just mentioned, including Atiku. He was governor of Adamawa State.
Governor elect.
Elect of Adamawa State. He was never sworn in. But yeah, all of them have won elections as governors. Let's leave it at that. But only one of them has had a national coverage as a vice president, the second in command, the next man to the president, taking national decisions. So when you bring that into context, he understands the Nigerian terrain, he understands the business of governance. 2 days ago, I was at the 97th neck of the PDP. And he took a finite knife to issues. And for us, you can see when we speak that Ilemona expresses a collective desire by young people that the party forges ahead. So and I congratulate every young person in PDP that has maintained a level of calm as this situation goes on. But now that the party has taken a stand, I'll say this very sternly, we will not be afraid to do what comes next to ensure the success of our party in 2023. Because like Ose and Ilemona have said clearly, this is a national issue. It transcends the party. And we have to do what it takes to sustain our future. Because the future is about us and our very young children. And we have to fight to secure that future for them. We don't care whose ox is God. I know people have personal interest. But right now, as we stand, PDP is the only hope for this country. There's no other hope for
Anthony,
the country.
I'll leave it there. So let me have the final word from you. Campaign starts on the 28th. He has spoken about his candidate speaking holistically to Nigeria. In 1 minute, what's your final word to Nigerians as we enter campaign season?
I think there needs to be a recognition that as Nigerians, we have only two choices. We can either continue as things are, or we can seek to change things. That's the first instance. And the second thing is that the scale of the problems are that no one man or no one party can do it. And I like speaking to specifics. My candidate Atiku is the only person that has recognized that and said, to ride on the unifier title he has, that he will form a government of national unity that includes everybody who wants to work with him to make Nigeria great again. And I'll just urge everyone, if I have any advocacy to do, it wouldn't be for my party or for the campaigns. It would just be for the democratic process. I think every vote should count. I think the outcome of our election should represent our collective will. And when the president is sending APC-leaning or APC-aligned nominees to the Senate for confirmation as INEC resident electoral commissioners, then that is in jeopardy. So I would urge everybody, just like we did with the e-transmission, to push hard to resist the attempt to subvert the will of the people.
I think it's also very important, and you would agree that in the next election, INEC needs to ensure that on the days of the elections actually hold. Because while we talk about apathy and reduced numbers, in the last two elections, the night before the election, dates were changed and people who traveled couldn't go back. And so we would also like to charge INEC. However, I would like to charge your party that the three of you have done amazing work for your party over the years. And I hope that they actually are inclusive of regions, of groups, young and old, and also people living with disability. Ose, Onoja, and Anthony, always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
When campaigns start properly, we'll bring you guys back and hear your open takes. And we'll also try to ensure we have representatives of the APC next week to discuss their preparedness and readiness for the 2023 election. That's the most we can take on today's episode of The Weekend Show. Do follow us on social media at The Weekend Show NG on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also follow me on social media at Andy Madaki. This episode will be on YouTube, so check for The Weekend Show NG on YouTube and also on TOS TV network. It's been nice having you guys join us. Do have a blessed weekend and see you next week.